What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. It is Tuesday, April the 8th of 2025. We're back, and this is the 2025 pre-draft show. Maybe, question mark, we'll schedule another. And we're right on the fringe. We probably could, but if we did episode 600 on the draft show special, that would be kind of cool. I don't
That
know.
would that would almost be like we planned it if we did
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's
Yeah, the
true.
draft is about 2 weeks out now, so we got something to look forward to.
I'm excited. I didn't do my due diligence on research, but I have enough we can sort of get by. Hello to Charlotte and MC Sports. We appreciate y'all. Hello from Galveston. Nice. I like our little family of fans we have. We're all scattered about, even all three of us. If this is your first time tuning in, we are in three different states and two different time zones doing this. And we've been doing this a long time. We were just talking before we came on about how we wish we could just do movie quotes, and that should be, we could do that during the draft, just waiting because they're pick 24th. We got a little bit of time, so
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
matter
Well,
of fact, that's a good idea, guys.
Adam,
I need to look right now. I'll let you go ahead, Kyle. I think I'm going to take off that Friday, and we can stay up and actually do a show where I don't have to wake up early in the morning.
yeah, Adam and I were discussing before you hopped on, Smith, about the Vikings Ring of Honor and how many players are from like our era of watching Vikings football are already in the Ring of Honor, and it's a pretty sizable amount of players when you look at it. Who are like, oh, you can go through the list. And you can go, I watched him play. I watched him play. I watched him play. So
Nice.
we were discussing like what modern era Vikings are going to kind of be the next crop of players. We came up with Harrison Smith, Adrian Peterson are probably two shoe-ins. You'd make a case for Adam Thielen. I could maybe see an Adam Thielen. Adam was big on Chris Tomlinson as being the first media
Oh yeah.
reporter. No, he did not champion Chris Tomlinson.
My favorite Vikings media personality of all time, and Mike Zimmer as well. Actually, that's what I vote for. If we get a vote, if all the legacy brick owners of the U.S. Bank Stadium, that's how I'm going to tie us into this. If we can all get a vote, I want them to share a banner together. Mike Zimmer and Chris Thompson. I want them to share a Ring of Honor
I
spot.
thought you were maybe going to go with Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer. Like,
Hey, Kirk Cousins could make a case. He's one of the best Viking quarterbacks in history. Him and Mike Zimmer together would be a nice one, and put it by the executive suite.
You know who nobody's talking about the Vikings signing as a backup quarterback possibility is Kellen Mond.
well, that's because we've
Why
seen
is
his
that, Adam?
stats. We've seen his stats in the UFL, Adam. There is a reason why we are not having this discussion.
Yeah, his team went to their Super Bowl last year, so who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, they're winless this year, but that doesn't mean much, right?
What did we decide? He
I
passed
also
for
don't
100.
think they've scored an offensive touchdown. Which
He passed for
not
what,
enough.
111 yards in one game.
Hey,
Yeah,
you guys
it's,
remember
rough.
when I named that one episode? Not necessarily.
That's
He was a third-round draft choice, and Thomas Edward Brady was in the sixth round.
for the folks keeping score at home. That's 111 yards total in 4 quarters of football. Four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Four.
Okay.
Four
Apparently,
quarters
he
of
also
football.
could not complete a tush push during that game, the second week.
Like I said in the chat, there are games more often than not for the Vikings where Justin Jefferson has more than 111 yards receiving himself.
Kyle, his career average for receiving yards is like 90 something. He's right. His average per game was almost more than Ellen Mond throws for in a game. That's crazy.
That's wild stuff, dude.
I mean, don't get us wrong, we're not rooting against the kid, but it is hard to
don't-
see him struggle like this.
Don't have any reason to root for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's better than we'll ever dream of being.
Kyle's the guy that roots for everybody to go bankrupt
Oh,
on
no.
game shows on TV. He's screwed for the Wheel of Fortune wheel to hit bankrupt. He's like, come on, bankrupt.
Come on, baby.
Boo. Just booing it home. Yeah, so I don't really have a structure for the show. I'm going to tell you guys.
It's also not the first time. you could have
Well,
made that statement.
first time ever that I haven't been
Yeah.
prepared on this show.
Really interesting about this draft is that the Vikings can set a franchise record if they only use the 4 draft picks that they have to select players. That'll be their smallest draft class in franchise history.
Yeah, that would be pretty nuts. Four
How do you
picks.
guys how do you guys feel about that? Does that make you concerned or what?
Well, it makes each pick that much more important. So, like
Correct.
you might want to gamble on a higher end prospect when they're with a really high ceiling, but also a little bit lower floor. But you got to get something out of this class, so it makes it to where you can't really roll the dice that hard.
It's interesting. This is what I take away from where the team is at, where we are as fans, and like this era of the team. So this will be year 4 of Quessy and KOC, right? So you had a good year with Kirk, a down year with Kirk, a great year with Sam. Now you're going into the JJ McCarthy era as far as quarterbacks go. But stepping like back to the eagle eye view, it's so crazy how each team is built differently. The atmosphere, everything feels different from city to city and team to team, right? The Packers are historically known for drafting and developing guys. They don't spend a lot in free agency, they don't make big splashes. And then I look at our team right next door in the next state over, and I'm looking at this current era, and I'm like, this guy drafts okay sometimes, but man, he does a great job in free agency because right now, if they go and just, hey, we're going to stick and pick and we're just going to use our 4, I I don't know that I trust him that well, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, but you know
You're starting to
what?
sound like anonymous NFL GM here.
Yeah,
The
right.
Yeah.
Vikings only
Rick
going after old
Rick
players.
Spielman. Rick
Yeah,
Spielman. Anonymous GM. Rick Spielman.
I love that. I love that Kyle branded that to be Rick Spielman because it would be that's
Who
so
who
funny.
else who else in the NFL gives a shit? To quote about the
Mike
Vikings,
Zimmer.
other
Mike Zimmer would love to shit on the Vikings and watch them
It's not
fail.
like the Vikings are going after these older players for like long-term placeholders. They're only there because Minnesota has such few draft picks and can't spend a ton of money on young players that have not had health issues or
right.
anything like that. They are going for the players that can help out, that have an opportunity to prove things to themselves. Those players would not be available if they were young and always healthy. The reason Minnesota was able to sign them is because they were a bit older and maybe had some health problems recently. That's the only real reason they were able to come to Minnesota in the first place.
And I also feel like sometimes the media doesn't they don't really know about the Vikings because we're not a big market team. So they don't pay attention to them as close as what the three of us do. And so we know that the time was up on Garrett Bradbury. Like it was you were just done with him at center. And so they're rolling a dice on an older player who's maybe got a bit of an injury history, but you had to make that move. And like Adam said, you're not really locked in to a long-term contract. You can get out of it, you can move on in a couple years. So is it a bit of a risk? Yeah, a little bit. I understand why they did it, and I don't hate it. Even if it doesn't work, I don't hate it because on paper I can go, I understand why they did it. I understand why they made this move.
Well, some of the biggest criticism came from the defensive linemen that the Vikings signed, and I get it, yeah. They're older players, and, sure, Minnesota could have looked for younger guys to be able to hold things down. Maybe guys that have a longer track record of, not having injuries or things like that, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's free agency. We're already in the second wave. You got to take what's there and improve your roster as good as you can with the assets you have. That's what you do as a general manager. That's all you can do.
So I don't know. I like what they did, and I know there's a risk reward there, but I always said, take the Bill Belichick approach of if you're going to do something like if you're going to take the risk or you're going to move on, you always need to upgrade. They're not going after players with like character issues or like I think that the dumbest thing they've done in recent was Marcus Davenport because he's never on the field, but he was relatively cheap, so it's not like you lost financially. But I like that they went for they're clearly trying to upgrade, even though there might be a small, albeit a small one, an asterisk by the name, whether it be for age or injury or whatever. They're trying to get better, and they're doing it in an efficient way. And I think what we're seeing over the years is Questi Adolfo-Mensa has a certain formula, and he's kind of stuck to it with a low risk, high reward kind of deal. And the other part that we got to give the Wilfs credit for is like they are doing well, letting the GM hire great people, go sign great free agents, and they have good coaches. Now that's going to change when Brian Flores leaves, and I hope it's going to be someone who can maintain that level of awesomeness on the defensive side. But man, it speaks to what you can get out of these players when you're like, hey, we'll go and take the rejected player from this team because he has a gambling thing or whatever, or you're a little older, but you can still play, right? So come over here, we can use you. I love that, and I love that it's kind of that the stamp that Quessy is known for now.
And it's crazy because last season I think we can all agree that he kind of hit things out of the park in free agency. He got some real good players,
Yep.
but you will always get those people pointing out, well, Stephon Gilmore didn't have a very good year, and they paid him, quite a bit of money. It's like, yeah, sure, you can point to any of those kind of things, but then you're like, but what about Blake Cashman having a great season? What about Jonathan
Excellent
Grenard,
player.
Andrew Van Ginkel, all
And
these
Andrew
guys that
Van Ginkel. Yeah.
just absolutely balled out last year.
And to nitpick on that, Adam, not about what you said, but the fans that go out and like, well, Stephon Gilmore wasn't good. He wasn't your cornerback number one. He wasn't paid to be the guy. It was Byron Murphy. And guess what? He came back. I'm glad that they went in that direction. It sucks when you see a former defensive player of the year look old and slow. But a depth piece that worked, he was fine. He had some good
I thought he
flashes
played.
last year.
I thought he played well.
He did. He did fine.
He did all right.
He
Yeah,
played
did.
well in the
He
role
did
that he was
fine.
expected to
Same
play.
same way
Yeah.
with Shaquille Griffin. He's not a cornerback number one on any team, but he's a solid starter. I'd love to see him come back on a cheap deal. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, so far I don't have a lot of complaints about the free agency moves. I mean, you can argue and debate the draft situation because right now we don't know what JJ McCarthy or Dallas Turner are, and there have been a couple whiffs in the past, but I'm still open to seeing what Minnesota can do with this draft, especially with such limited draft capital.
I'm gonna look at the depth chart right now because I want to transfer into like what I think, and you guys go however you want with this too. But there's three ways I think the Vikings could and should go in this draft. I think the most likely scenarios. It's really hard to pinpoint which one will happen because we all know the draft could go stupid by like the sixth pick, and then the whole board is messed up because some team overdrafted or some dude falls or whatever else. But
I'll be absolutely honest, I have no idea what's going to happen at the front of this draft. The more I look at it, the more confused I get.
I think the only thing that's pretty locked in, and it's still nothing's 100% until it happens, but Cam Ward's going to go to Tennessee. It looks like that's the move. But
That
everything
looks
starts.
like it's the move, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's been said, and that's what it looks like. But everything really starts at 2 with Cleveland. Like they could
Yeah,
go
Cleveland at number 2. I mean, they could want that athletic player, that Travis Hunter, that can do whatever people want. They could want a big offensive tackle like Armand Membu, there of Missouri, big guy that could do. Abdul Carter's the best edge rusher in the class, and he could be there for them if they want. I don't know if they have a quarterback in mind.
Cleveland could also use a quarterback. I mean,
do you go Sanders? Do you keep looking and try to grab? I can't remember that other guy's name, but
Jackson
there's a
Dart.
couple prospects that are. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
I mean, there are options there at number 2 where it could throw this whole draft out of whack in a big way.
I'm going to try to bring it up on the screen here, and I hope my computer doesn't crap out on me while we do this. But I'm going to do the draft order and bring it up, and we can just talk about a few things up there and players that are highlighted because there are some big names. You'll just hear if you just listen once a day to any major sports network, you'll hear a certain name or two over and over and over again. But we know the top 4 picks will be Tennessee, Cleveland, the New York Giants at 3, and then the Patriots at 4. Cleveland, Tennessee, and New York. I don't want to say New York. They got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. So we have the top 2 picks definitely need quarterbacks. For some odd reason, I just feel like it makes sense for Cleveland to call Atlanta and say, let Kirk Cousins come over here and ride out his career for like a 2-year deal with one of his old coaches. It'll be the complete opposite character of the guy that they last had starting. And then you have a solid backup in Kenny Pickett. They'd have to give up capital for him, but if they can somehow swing it post-draft and say, we went out and got, Abdul Carter to pair with Myles Garrett at number 2, and then we went and traded next year's stuff for Kirk Cousins now. If Atlanta was cool with that, maybe it makes sense to me that that would be it. I don't think you roll with just like Shadur Sanders and Kenny Pickett. Like that doesn't seem like a
It's
formula
also
to fit.
it's also Cleveland, so you can try to apply logic to what you think they're going to do, particularly at the quarterback position.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that's what they're going to
I mean,
do.
we've seen the Cleveland Browns pay people a lot of money to tell them who to draft, and then not draft that guy anyway.
Right on.
I will give them credit. They have built a good roster. They do have a good coach. They totally whiffed and did a horrible thing when they went after Deshaun Watson. We all know why. We all know that, so we don't have to get into that. But I think that would be a smart move. And the same thing, just to tie him into it, because he's still in the news because he hasn't signed yet. It's the Aaron Rodgers thing. I think that a year removed from the Achilles for Cousins, he'll look better. Rodgers looked okay, especially towards the end of last season. He started to warm up a little bit and look a little closer to form rather than that slow, shaky start that he had. I think Kirk Cousins will look much better this year. And I don't know. It just makes sense. I don't know what kind of weapons Cleveland has. I know Nick Chubb is still there as their running back, but I don't know who their wide receivers are. Jerry
I've
Judy, I
been reading
think.
those reports that Rodgers is closer to working something out with Pittsburgh,
Right.
and that retirement isn't really on the table for him anymore, and that's not really something he wants. That's what I've been reading.
And my gut just tells me that Atlanta is going to keep Kirk because Michael Penix has had that injury history in college. I mean, when we were talking about him in the draft process, he has had both knees worked on, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
So, he's got that injury history.
He could be a real expensive backup, though.
Right? But I still think they hold on to Kirk because he's a good insurance in case Penix goes down or struggles.
That's true. I can't fathom any team paying somebody like that much money to be it doesn't make sense.
But we say it all the time, dude. NFL salary cap is funny money. It's all made up. It don't matter.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
So, we talked about Cam Ward to Tennessee makes the most sense. I don't know what Cleveland's going to do. New York is very interesting because as much as I just said it doesn't make sense, for them to go after a quarterback having Russell and Jameis, those aren't your long-term answers. I literally think both of them won't be there next year. I don't think
one of the
will be.
Okay, so one of those two will not be on the Giants come week 1 of the regular season. That's my bold prediction. I don't think that they keep both of them.
Okay. I think if they're not going to pick a quarterback, they probably have to keep both of them just because they don't even have that Tommy DeVito kid anymore, I don't think. I think you have to, but I don't – definitely not
They
past –
have Ben DiNucci.
Oh, God. Who is that? Sounds like a henchman in a shitty mob movie. I don't even know who that is. Sorry, dude. I'm sure you're a great college quarterback, but I don't know, man. I feel like if they could go at New York's the perfect market for a guy like Shadur, but then where do you get better as far as this need or that need? Because they have so many needs. They're pretty bad all around outside of what Malik Neighbors and the D line.
Yeah.
I can't really think of anything else. They don't have a running back. We saw how that worked last year. It's weird. Go ahead.
That's a shit situation to put a young quarterback in because that's a GM that I don't think is going to be here past this year either. So if you get drafted by a regime that's on their way out, dude, that sucks. That sucks for any young player, particularly a quarterback, because 9 times out of 10, the new folks who come in, they want to draft their own quarterback. They want to find their own veteran to hinge their bets on. They usually don't want what the previous people have invested in. That's a bad situation, man.
Yeah.
But you know what Minnesota wants, right? Ryan Tannehill.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. I'm giving in. Just get him. I don't.
I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Who else are you bringing in?
I mean, all the reports right now is that they're waiting so that signing a quarterback won't hurt against their compensatory pick formula, and I get that. But there's got to be some kind of wink handshake deal done so that this quarterback they want isn't signing somewhere else.
Him or Carson Wentz. That's the only ones I could think of.
Where's Nathan Peterman? What's he up to?
Or a young, he's like a fringe starter, probably about 35, 36 out of the top 32 at the moment. But like Aiden O'Connell made sense. He had flashes. I know he had the respect of Devontae Adams while he was a Raider, which says a lot because
Apparently,
he knows what
Peterman
that
is
is.
in Atlanta.
Oh, perfect.
No,
Same room. There we go.
That's what
really?
Wiki says.
That's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. I'm giving in. I've been bullied into it enough to believe. Okay, Ryan Tannehill in purple. I said
I don't
Daniel
hate it.
Jones wasn't going to be a Viking last year, and I had to eat crow on that. So who knows? Wish we. That's great. Wish we had a young first round quarterback. I know. If only, right? You know what's crazy, Jack? Thank you for commenting. Thank you for listening.
Great
Is
username.
yeah. You know what's
Yeah,
great is we keep talking about Michael Penix like he doesn't have a way worse injury history than JJ McCarthy does. Isn't that weird? And they'll be
yeah.
linked forever because they played in the national championship game.
So
But not only did he have two knees, I know he had at least one shoulder
But
surgery too.
McCarthy's is more recent, so that's kind of why it sticks out a lot more.
Sure,
that
I get it.
that was what I wanted to bring up with you guys too. Remember in our private chat, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I showed that video of Aiden Hutchinson and he's out sprinting and he's out looking really good, recovering from his injury. How come like it's no big deal? And I understand Aiden Hutchinson is a physical specimen, a physical freak. Like I get it, but how come like no one is worried about his ability to return? But JJ McCarthy is like he has kind of a minor surgery and he's just damaged goods. Like he's broken, he's done. The Vikings are fucked. Look at this bust. He's injury prone. Like, how come there's that narrative with McCarthy?
And you know something absolutely wild, and you're right to say that, is that when you look at power rankings heading into the season, experts don't trust the Vikings, and their main reason is because they don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be ready or
Right.
an effective starter in the NFL. And I don't know why they think that when they've got, a head coach that has been able to work with quarterbacks and make them look good.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a team around him that will be able to get things done. Maybe they just don't believe.
I think.
I will
Go ahead, Kyle.
go ahead, Smith.
We're in a Canadian fight right now.
Uh-huh.
The only thing that I hate to say the crappy part out loud is I just hope JJ McCarthy stays healthy. What would really be the worst case scenario is they could have stuck with Sam Darnold and he's still young enough to be the guy. He looks all right in Seattle and JJ McCarthy gets hurt again. Because then you're going to have a lot of questions of, all right, we're going into year 3. Dude can't stay healthy, but I don't foresee that being an issue. I feel like he's going to look pretty good. And I just love the moxie about the kid. Everything about him screams like 10 years, same team, everybody loves him. Like really, really love it. He's the definition of a prospect, and I really, really love that. And I just want to see it work out, man. He's a good kid.
The kid's got potential. He's got more potential than I think any quarterback I've seen the Vikings draft since I've been a fan of this franchise.
Yeah.
I understand that like you just have to give the keys to the franchise over to him and see what happens. Would it suck, like you said, if it turns into worst case scenario where like Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl for the Seahawks and McCarthy is like hurt and a bust? Yeah, that would really stink. But like I understand that you drafted him and you have to stand by that decision, right?
Yeah. I don't know. He has all our support. I don't think that last year necessarily is a bad thing. This is what I said that should happen last year, anyways. And you know what, I absolutely cannot stand.
Ketchup?
No, I love ketchup. I don't like pickles. Actually,
Well, there you
I
go.
hate pickles and mushrooms. I'll die on that hill. We can talk about that in the comments. What's your least favorite topping and or condiment? Light it up.
Horseradish.
Yeah, who eats? No, I'm good. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
But I hate that there was reports out after after the season was over, they were looming like, are the Vikings going to stick with him or not? And people were like, well, you remember JJ McCarthy was about to win the starting job before he got hurt. No, the
Was
fuck
he?
he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He was throwing to the threes. Why do people say false, stupid shit just in the moment, just to be like, oh my God, look, I got a little bit of attention. Like it's the craziest thing to me. It's my most annoying pet peeve of the last 10 to 15 years. People will just say shit out loud that is blatantly not true. And for what? The evidence is right there that you're lying. And you think JJ
I
McCarthy was going to beat out the guy who had 35 touchdowns last year?
I would have liked to have seen that competition continue to play out. From what
Sure.
we've seen in McCarthy, yeah, I liked him. It was a good first start for him in the preseason in the NFL. Like I think he looked pretty solid. Ultimately, I do think they were going to lean towards Sam Darnold being the starter, regardless of how well he played, because that's generally what NFL coaches will do. You lean towards the player who has experience. And obviously, Darnold got off to that super hot start. There was never a point in that season where you were going to pull him.
Well, at least not early in the season.
Well,
That was
well,
my next point, Kyle. It's like,
yeah,
that fans wanted to scream like, "Oh, he's going to turn into the duck that he always is." I don't think he
he
had
did.
one game where he had more picks than touchdowns, and then he had multiple games where he had 2, 3, or 4 touchdowns in the game, no picks. Like he had an amazing season. Like not good, he had an amazing
Yeah.
season. So it's not like at any point, even the people who were just hating on him to hate on him. Trust me, I wanted to. I wanted to be a hater. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, how the hell do they keep winning games? It's crazy. Pickles kept. I don't know what to tell you. I can't stand mushroom. Yeah, you see the consistency here. I don't. First of all, I don't like anything with a vinegar base because it tastes awful. It's like eating shoe nail polish. But it's that
That must really
rubbery.
limit your hot sauces, though.
Well,
Yeah.
if you go super hot, you don't even care about that part of it. It just my tongue is numb at that point. But yeah, it depends.
So I
Yeah,
assume
I
you
don't
don't
like
like
that.
dipping your French fries in vinegar, then.
No, 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 no.
All
All
right.
right, I bet that's awesome. Yeah, I don't like the texture of these too. Like I'm not a big pepper fan, like bell peppers or whatever. And it's not because the taste is nice. I like them finely diced. If you have them on a Philly cheesesteak and they're
You just
long and
rhymed.
stringy, yeah. Oh,
That
there
was
we
your inner
go.
musician coming out right
Thank
there.
you, thank you. Talking about peppers. Um, Yeah, I would rather have them finely diced up than like long and stringy on a cheesesteak. You know what I mean? It's the
Right.
Yeah.
texture of it. It feels like I'm chewing. I hate to be descriptive, but it feels like I'm chewing on a booger or something. And I'm not a person who does that, but it's what it reminds me of. I'm like, what is this? This
I don't.
consistency, man. I
That's
don't
why I
like it.
can't bring myself to do like oysters and stuff like that. I
Can't
just
do oysters.
Oh God,
Mm-mm.
the
we
look
sell
of it
those.
is not appealing.
I sell those at work out of the service case, and then we'll stop talking about oysters. But good lord, the smell when you open that container is disgusting, and it looks like snot.
Yeah,
Like they look like they are. I can't believe people eat that shit.
I've tried some stuff too, like some gamey things. You're going on a hunt or two, and then
Oh, sure.
I like certain fish. Like I'm not above eating something from the sea because it's going to have a certain smell to it. But there's just certain things, man. I don't like, and that's in the wheelhouse. They all have a sort of the same consistency. But no, I can eat the shit out of some barbecue. See, this is where I love. This is something I love too. That's hilarious. Certain parts of the country argue, and it's only the people that are from there, like Memphis, Texas, and Carolina. They will all scream at each other like, "Your barbecue sucks. Ours is the best." And like, no, it's literally just what you like. I love barbecue. Um, Malt vinegar for the win. Nice. Band Big Red.
So I play Overwatch as Clint, and he types that in chat all the time.
That's it. You know what? We'll ask the chat. This is a great one. What is your go-to hot sauce?
The only sauce I used today was Valentina, and I know you don't like that because it's vinegar based.
I've had it. It's not terrible. I'm a Cholula guy, or I mean, you can't go wrong. Not Tabasco. Texas Pete. Texas Pete's fine. It's not. It's a little mild. I like Cholula.
You know what's really overrated, and I don't really like it that much at all, is Frank's. So I know people love Frank's, but it's not
Yeah,
my thing.
it's not. It's kind of average for me. It's overrated.
Oh, we got to put Charlotte in a timeout.
So, oyster's the best ever.
No,
You like
no.
pickles and oysters? Yeah, she's one of those. Sweet and sour sauce is good. I'll get sweet and sour chicken just for that.
So
Nice.
chicken nuggets, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, Asian chicken nuggets. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna get back to football. I have three scenarios here, and I did barely like the most lazy effort ever. Here's my take on if the Vikings are still at 24, assuming they don't trade up. If they're there, these are one of the three things that are going to happen. Safety is a need, cornerback is a need, or they're going to trade out and move back to acquire picks.
I didn't realize Minnesota had accumulated as many corners as they did. They got a kind of filled up room now to where I don't know if that's a major need entering the draft, at least not in the first round. But I'm with
Fair.
you. I would love to see, like, maybe if there's a really good left guard or a safety. I had seen that Minnesota brought in a tight end and a top 30 visit, and that kind of made me interested.
So we have some familiar names here. I'm looking right now on ourlads.com, the base 3-4. So we've got at left corner Isaiah Rogers, pickup from Philly. Byron Murphy is your nickelback, and then Mekhi Blackman would be your right corner. Um, they did pick up Jeff Okuda as well. Forgot about that. You've got Dwight McGlovern, Thomas Tavir. I don't know who the hell that is. The safety room isn't as bad as I thought initially, but I would still like to see a good upgrade there. You got Josh Metellus and Harrison Smith, Jay Ward, and Theo Jackson. We're going to have some of these players that have been fringe starters to step up, and in that role, they're going to need to play well. I think they will under Brian Flores.
I think
But
Minnesota's really expecting Theo Jackson to take that step forward, and that's why they gave him that extension. And I mean, he's got a lot to prove to earn that money, in my opinion.
correct, but we've seen them do this in the past with different players, different regime. But if they see enough to do that, like with the Danielle Hunter before, and now Josh Metellus in this regime, I trust them enough to be like, oh, they know what they've got in this guy. And I think we should talk about this for just a second too. This is underrated because we kind of thought last year was it. Harrison Smith coming back for what will probably be his final rodeo, clutch. We kind of
Yeah,
needed him because that would have to
we
be if
really
he
did.
didn't come back. You probably have to stay there and get a safety.
Oh, yeah.
So shout out to him, man. Hall of Fame Harry. We need to do that all year on every social media that we have. We need to lobby for him to go in the Hall of Fame. What an absolutely crazy career, and to stay with one team the entire time.
And
That's the most shocking thing to me.
you know what I love about Harrison Smith off the field? He is so down to earth. They will be like, "What did you do this off season, Harrison?"
Yeah.
I learned how to lay concrete, or like something just completely random, like I redid part of my house.
Yeah.
I picked like that's really neat. That's
It's like when
relatable.
you have the chance to meet Chad Greenway and you just talk to him about regular, normal guy stuff. It's weird.
Oh yeah,
So, in doing the slightest, tiniest bit of research, we'll get the easy one out of the way. I think the low hanging fruit here would be to take a couple of picks, move back. Maybe you trade with 30, 31, 32, so you can still get a
yeah,
fifth year option and
yeah.
acquire some more picks for this year. Maybe you end up with 6 overall. I'd feel a little more comfortable given our GM's track record of being about 50-50, which isn't, when I say it out loud, like that's most GMs. It's usually a 50% crapshoot. But I think that's the easiest one, right? What do you guys think? Trading back being probably the easiest option, depending on how the board is. Okay, that wouldn't be that shocking, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think if you're going to have a draft with 4 picks in it, this would be the one to do it because I think this is a weaker class. I could see Minnesota coming away with a running back and an offensive lineman in the corner or something like that and not investing too much in this class. I would rather see them get future picks than get more picks in this draft. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
agree
Maybe I'm
with.
just down on this class more than others, but
I don't hate that at
I
all.
don't think I want a lot of talent out of this draft. I'd be more than willing to wait.
I don't hate that at all.
I agree with Adam. I think the Vikings have done a pretty good job this offseason of situating themselves with no glaring need coming into this draft of like you said, oh my god, we have to take a corner because we don't have any on the roster. They have corners. They're maybe not your long-term solution out there necessarily, but you got guys that you could like if we had to play a game tomorrow, you have guys that you could put a suit up and put out there.
Yep.
So
But you
I
also got
think
to look at some of the picks that the Vikings gave up. I mean, is that 6th or 7th round pick to go and get I just had
Jordan
Jordan
Mason.
Mason? Is that worth that pick in that spot? Would you have gotten a better player in the draft in that spot? And I don't think you would have. I that's why I see that trade as
Yeah,
being well worth that pick. And now that Minnesota doesn't have that pick, I'm okay with it because they got an asset that I think is going to work really well and hopefully help Aaron Jones stay healthy and
yep,
rotate in and out. And
yep.
I love it. I love it.
And we've talked about this, Smith, about how it felt like before that the Vikings were in the prime position to trade back and trade out of the first round and acquire more picks. But the closer we get towards the draft, I'm leaning towards siding kind of with Adam on what I think is that you just maybe stay put and you just kind of take the best available player at whatever position they happen to be at. And you just draft with what you got, and you're not super worried about loading up this year.
Well, you look at some of the biggest criticisms of the draft for Kwesi Mensa, a lot of them involve trading back.
Right.
And I don't think that's his strength.
That's a good argument too. It is. It's an interesting approach. You know, they knew going in when they doubled down last year with Dallas Turner. These are still things that we don't talk about enough because we're so focused on this draft. It's so funny how amped everyone gets. So like, oh my God, the draft's here. The draft's here. It's like, hey, you guys remember we have 2 first round picks from last year. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
One of them
Yeah.
didn't play, but one of them is going to be really good. He's going to be very good, and you have to have patience and time with the opportunity to get him out there. But yeah, that's a good point, Adam. I don't know if I trust him as much to do that either. But the way my brain defaults is like, well, maybe we can get a couple more. That would make me feel better because the math in my brain goes, well, if you have more picks, you have more chances to hit.
Yeah, there's that Spielman logic where you cast a wider net, you're likely to catch some more or better fish, and
Yeah.
that's not
You
always
say
true.
that. You say that, but then you go back to that year that the Vikings had the most draft picks in the history of
12.
any team in the NFL, and you draft like Chaz Surratt, and it doesn't matter. Like that draft class really did not matter. Do you guys think there is a scenario where the Vikings go, this draft class isn't the best. We don't really covet a lot of mid to late round talent. We're going to trade up and we're going to jump from wherever we're at to like number 12. And we're going to take a guy that we think might be a generational safety or a generational corner or someone that we really believe in. And we're going to give up even more draft picks this year to do that. Like, is that a real scenario that could happen?
I
I
mean, if
think
the
it's
right prospect is on the board and they have the equipment and the ammo to go and get it, do it.
I
That's
think
what
it's
you're there for.
less
Yep.
likely, but I certainly don't think it's impossible.
I don't know who it would be. I mean,
I don't either.
they're not trading up for Travis Hunter. Like, would that be fun?
Well,
Yeah.
that's a great thing you brought up, Kyle, because in looking at safety prospects, I picked 3 safety and 3 corner prospects, and I left the top 2 cornerbacks out by consensus. So while we're there, I'm already talking about it. I have Jade Brown from Texas or Barron from Texas, Siobhan Revel Jr., ECU, shout out to a Carolina boy, and then Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. These are guys that you could see, and I've seen Siobhan Revel Jr. in all the social media pages that I follow for the Vikings saying, hey, this could be a realistic pick, a cornerback out of ECU. But these are 3 guys that there's a couple that might go in the top 10 or 12, Travis Hunter being one of them. I'm not sure who goes after that. But these are guys that you could possibly hear the Vikings call on day one if they stay at 24. A corner out of Texas, ECU, and Notre Dame. Great, huge programs. And I don't know. I have to look more into. I can't give you comps or anything like that. But looking down the board and looking at 3 or 4 websites and seeing, okay, this guy has this guy here. This person has this player here. Like these are the crop and people that say, okay, you can rearrange this guy, but most of all, these are the top 5 at each position. So trying to keep it in reality, they're not going to get Travis Hunter. We know that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's not going to happen.
I'll pick 3,
He's
4, and 5 on the list and say that could be a possibility because we do know after listening and tuning in a little bit and having our ear to the ground for all the outlets out there, this is a very big O line and a very big D line draft and linebacker draft. The pass rushers and the pass blockers, they're going to be heavy, especially in the front. So that'll give you more options. And the quarterbacks, not really anything to be desired. So it's an interesting draft compared to years past, especially the recent ones where it's like quarterback, quarterback. Oh my God, look at all these pass catchers, and now we're like, are D linemen and running back making a comeback? There's going to be a running back taken in the top 10, and I didn't
Yeah,
think
it's an
that was the
interesting
case.
draft when you don't have to look at like edge rushers and quarterbacks and things like that. I mean, wide receiver is a maybe, but you'd have to really like what you have in a guy to invest in another wide receiver at this point.
It could be a good draft for the Vikings to take an offensive lineman just to piss off every draft analyst out there to spend
Every
a
fan.
to spend a first round pick on an offensive lineman who is not going to play year 1 or year 2 and like be that year 3 year 4 starter, like future starter down the line for this team. Like it
I
could be a
mean,
good year for that dude.
do we all kind of have that same still like little question mark next to the left guard position for the Vikings? I mean, I like
Yeah,
Blake Randell, but I am not sold on that as being part of the new Vikings offensive line. And there are some talented players that could fit in real well. I mean, Tyler Booker is going to be taken in the second half of the draft out of Alabama, and he's an interior offensive lineman who could really help this team out.
I'll ask you a very obvious question to answer your question, Adam. Outside of Justin Jefferson, who on this team do you look at and say he's corner number one, tight end number one, right whatever number one? Who is like, no, this guy is the starter. There is no ifs, ands, or buts.
I mean like TJ Hawkinson.
Hawkinson,
Hawkinson, right? Uh, Blake Brandell.
Darisaw,
Does that name scare you
O'Neal.
and blow you out of the water?
Yeah, O'Neal, yeah.
Does Blake Brandell scare you and blow you out of the water?
No.
Like to other
Yeah,
teams, you
like
can be like, "Oh man, we got a plan for Blake Brandell." And Blake, if you ever hear this, I'm not picking on you specifically. This is no shade at you personally. To answer your question, Adam is like, "Fuck no, go do that." If we learned anything from 2 months ago, go beef up your line. We have been pounding the table for this for 10 years doing this show. Go do it. I'm all for that. And if it makes fans mad, well, guess what?
And it's
I'm
been great to see
investing in this
Blake
thing.
Brandell step up throughout the years and earn that starting role last year. Congratulations to him on that. And
Mhm.
he played every game that he could, and he played at I think at a high level sometimes. And
hmm
I am not down on him being a starter. If he wins that job again, that's great. But I do understand if they want to bring in some competition for him, or possibly, you know, a swing guard or something to be able to bring in case of like something happening. Because let's be honest, injuries on the offensive line happen way too often.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to
And
them.
Minnesota ain't got a lot of depth there anymore.
I'm not opposed to them beefing up the line in any way, shape, or form anywhere. We saw last year Darisaw went down. They did an excellent job in replacing him like
Yeah.
immediately. But yeah, why not? I will never argue that. Um, if it's a terrible pick, if it's a TJ Clemmings, yeah, I'm going to be pissed. But
There's a throwback.
yeah,
There's a
there's my
name I
flex on
forgot
the
about.
day. There's a name you didn't know was still in your brain somewhere. But yeah, they
How
go
did
and
you
get some guy
how
like
did
that.
you have how did you have TJ Clemmings just on the tip of your tongue?
I'll tell
I
you
would have
why,
had
Kyle, because most of the guys I feel bad for, they've been okay. Like Garrett Bradbury, he's a solid, okay
yeah.
player. Wasn't great at any point, but he wasn't dog shit either. He's an average player. Most of these guys were either just average or below average, or they were completely not playing the position that they played in college, which I still want to go back in time and Superman punch Rick Spielman in the face and be like, stop putting tackles at guards, you fucking idiot. Stop. I don't understand that, but I like the way this team is built. I like what they were doing. Like I said, major kudos to the staff last year for being like, shit, our second best player on the team went down. We need to replace him immediately, otherwise our season's over. And they did, which was pretty cool. They did a 1 year rental, which I thought was smart. The other part of that, just while we're talking, I had some safety prospects up, and I've seen this guy mocked to the Vikings 100 times. I don't think he lasts until 24. He will probably go in the teens somewhere because every team needs a good safety. And God knows this team's been burned by that recently. Nick Emanwari from South Carolina. Bear with me from the college I'm going to tell you about here, but Malachi Starks from Georgia. I know a Georgia safety again by this GM would scare you. Or Xavier Watts, another Notre Dame player. You got to remember they were in the national championship.
All Georgia safeties do is win Super Bowls. That's it.
Dude, all the Georgia players do is win. You see that Philly D line is like half the, like all SEC everything. It's crazy. Yeah, you got a South Carolina, a Georgia, and a Notre Dame safety. I've seen all three of them in different mocks. Every guy puts out 6 mocks before. We don't do that here, but I've seen all these guys floating around the 20s, and this could be a relative thing that happen. I think this is more likely corner or safety to happen, but I don't know. I'm going to do my due diligence in the next 2 weeks to really watch and see what these guys are good at. And if we do another show, I'll try to talk about them a little bit. But those are my three things: corner, safety, or maybe they trade back. But Adam has kind of talked me into not only Ryan Tannehill today, but just sticking and picking because the team's kind of set where they are. Obviously, you could use depth pretty much anywhere, but I like that, man. You swung in a different position there in my brain, and I don't hate it now. I feel, Adam, you made me feel a little bit better about the team after this show, so I appreciate that.
What's nice is that if you take like a little bit and look at the depth chart, you can be like, okay, I see what this team is putting together here, and where like some of the smaller holes are, but there aren't a lot of glaring big
Mm-hmm.
gaps right now that would make you really worried and make you think, okay, so Minnesota has to do this in the draft.
Right.
I don't think they have to do anything right now. Sure, it would be nice to get a corner for the future, an offensive lineman for the future, whatever else, maybe a running back for the future. Who knows? But right now, I don't think there's an immediate starter needed anywhere.
So they signed Theo Jackson, and he's a safety. So I'm going to look here. I'm just going to try to find this. This is how I'll end my little speech about it before we close the show out here in a little bit. So you look at the position groups themselves, and I'm going to lump all of the secondary together. I know you probably shouldn't do that, but I'm going to do it. We know traditionally watching this team and watching this coach now in his third year of coaching the defense going into, he doesn't really worry too much about the secondary. He wants to get after the quarterback, and I appreciate it because it's fun to watch, and they're getting sacks left and right, which is fun. But when I look at each level of everything, like I look at the line, you got two all-star tackles, and now you've got a great guard and a great center if they can stay healthy. That's 4 out of 5 that are great, right? Running back, I have a good starter. Wide receiver, we're fucking set. Pass catchers in general are set. All right, cool. Switch that around. They beefed up the D line. The linebacker group is great. The one position group that I look at and say, I would feel a little better if you got a superstar stud. And that's not taken away from any of the guys on any of those groups, but I think it would be secondary. And I think that's why I was so heavy on it. If you go get a guy that's like, holy shit, we know that if everything goes to plan, that guy's going to be a home run hit.
Yep.
I think that's the only place that I feel like, all right, we did it. Now they have to go execute.
Well, you're going to want to try to find that guy that can be the Harrison Smith's replacement.
Yeah.
And if that guy is there in this draft, you do go after him for sure. But I mean, when you look at some of the other positions available too, I know I've already said it before though, but like, if a really talented receiver that can help this team out is on the board, I am not objecting to taking a wide receiver in the first round. Not one bit.
Wouldn't that be fun? It's kind of like what they're doing in Chicago. I think Chicago is going to be a force to be reckoned with if that coach gets it right there. They're building well. But if they go out and somehow Ashton Genty falls to 10, I'm going to be fucking pissed.
Oh, I hate that scenario so much.
I'll tell you even a worse one,
It
Kyle.
feels likely.
I don't think he's going to be there at 10, but I'll tell you what would be nightmare fuel. I am a North Carolina Tar Heel diehard fan. It's the first sports it's the only sports tattoo I have, right? I'm sorry, I got my Vikings one right up here, but it's not the same design, right?
Yeah.
But I'm from the area, right? That's my stuff. I'm telling you right now, the sleeper in the draft that if I was playing fantasy football or whatever in one of those keeper leagues, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina is going to be a fucking stud. And that'll be my hot take. Omarion Hampton 10 to the Bears, that's my nightmare situation. He is the second best running back in the
And
draft.
Genty ain't getting past Vegas. That ain't happening.
No chance. No chance. I keep seeing a bunch of like I Love Rich Eisen show. TJ, shout out to them, meeting them in the Super Bowl. They were super nice to me. he's a big Cowboys fan. He keeps saying, "Man, I'd love for Ashton Genty to fall to 12 to the Cowboys. The Cowboys need a running back." And everybody in the studio is like, "He ain't going to go past the Bears if he goes that far." I'm like,
I
"The
would love for him
Bears?
to fall to Minnesota, but that ain't going to happen either.
No, no chance. Either one of those running backs falls that far." But that's going to be my biggest. That'll be my hot take for the draft. Omarion Hampton, look out for where he goes. North Carolina running back, dude is special. We already know
There
Ashton
are
Genty is
quite
going
a
to be
few
great.
really good running backs in this draft that you kind of got to watch out
Yeah.
for. And I'll be honest, like even like mid to late round, Minnesota should look into grabbing a running back, even though they only have the 4 picks, because there are that many really good rushers in this draft. And if you can get a guy for the future, that's such a great way to do it.
I brought that
And
up
it doesn't
because
have to be a guy like Genty in the first, top 10 picks.
that's fine.
There's some really talented rushers that can be had anywhere in this draft, and Minnesota needs to grab one of them.
That's why I brought it up. Adam was saying, what if they went wide receiver in the first round? Wouldn't that be crazy? Because they're building that in Chicago to say, hey, we gave Caleb Williams every shot to be great. Coach beefed up. Like in one calendar year, they've done a ton for this kid. But wouldn't that be funny? And then thinking about that, immediately my brain went to, what's probably the worst case scenario here? I'm like, oh, fuck, the Bears are good again. That sucks.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting.
It's a tough division, man.
It really is. I hope that Detroit takes a step back. I feel like losing both your coordinators probably would happen, and then they did lose a player or two. So I hope that they come back to reality. But
but they also had some pretty good signings in free agency, so their roster isn't going to be that worse by any means. But the turnover in coaches I think, is going to be one of the bigger parts of that.
This is
It's
also
hard to remain consistent when you lose coaches.
It's also the same team that was decimated by injury and just found a way to keep on rolling all season long. They just kept on going, man. It's tough to do in the NFL.
Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, and then they played the Vikings next week. You're like, man, that'll super help us out. And we came within.
All right, this is totally non-Vikings related, but I got to ask you guys: is Washington a team to be kind of scared of going forward?
Absolutely,
a little bit. I like the quarterback.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
While I'll tell you what they are,
because they sure turned it on at the end of last year. I just didn't know if they were going to be consistently known as a threat.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what they remind me of. They remind me of us in the NFC East. There is a clear bigger brother in the division at the moment who is better, but they are on the rise, and they have a Super Bowl coach. One in Seattle. Wasn't he? Dan Quinn was the D coordinator, right, for the Seahawks. I believe he was the D coordinator for the Seahawks. And if I'm wrong on that, you guys can call me out, but I feel like he had a tie with the Seahawks somewhere. And then he went to a Super Bowl with Atlanta, and now he's back, and he has Cliff Kingsbury as the OC. That's what that guy's made for. He's not a good head coach. He's a damn good offensive coordinator. And then you got a head coach who's like known for defensive stuff. So it's like, and you got the Heisman quarterback there. I mean, he's a fucking cheat code. Absolutely, you should be scared.
They're legit. They are a good team.
And here's the thing. They have studs, B minus, B plus player. Outside of Terry McLaurin, I can't tell you another player on the team besides Jaden Daniels. I know Zach Ertz is there, but he's old as shit.
Santana Moss.
They started accumulating a little more talent, and it can be scary.
Absolutely, they can. It's kind of crazy how they went into Detroit and won last year. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what made me think of that, is that they were able to capitalize on Detroit's injuries and everything there towards the end of the season. And I don't know if it was that much that, Detroit was that weak, but Washington was playing really well. They were playing good football against good teams, and when that happens, it's scary.
It's also funny to watch the Super Bowl, and, the Vikings were in that dance. They did get into the tournament and then immediately crap the bed, as per usual. But it's funny to see the levels of teams that just got waxed. Like, we were on the same level as Denver. They made it, but they got bounced in the first round, and how much different it would have been. Like, you see how easily the Eagles whooped the Chiefs' ass, and it was just like the whole season was Kansas City just keeps finding a way to win.
The game wasn't even competitive.
It was not even close. And you're like, you imagine the Vikings somehow had made it to Philly again for the NFC Championship game?
That would have been.
It would have been worse than 2017.
Yeah,
it would have been worse. And I don't know if my heart can handle another Philly ass beating.
Yeah. I'd rather not.
I hate that.
I don't know if you guys saw this, but do you guys remember the referee that did not see Sam Darnold's face mask
Which one? There was two in the frame.
against the Rams on Thursday Night Football in Week 8?
No, I remember the play. I just remember there was a guy behind him, and then there's another ref over here, and I'm
No,
like, "What the
the
fuck?"
referee, the head official,
I don't remember who it is.
the one who gave the statement saying that he couldn't see it.
I mean, vaguely, yes.
Well, he got reassigned. He is now back to being an umpire. He's no longer a head referee, and he will not be a head referee for 2025. And
Imagine that.
they brought up a different official to take his place. So, I mean, Vikings fans who felt kind of robbed by that, I didn't see anything, I can't call what I don't see, that all felt really icky hearing him give that statement after the game. And part of me is kind of, I don't want to celebrate someone losing their job, but you got to
But
do
I
your
will.
job if you're gonna do
I
your
will.
job.
No, that's fine. When it's clear and egregious, I could just say "fuck you" and "you're terrible" and move on and say "eat shit." That's what we'll say. We'll say "eat shit." We'll keep it as short as we can. It's still going to be disrespectful, but "fuck you, eat shit." You get paid $200,000, $200,000 to be a referee, and
He's
you can't.
also the head official. I don't know if you remember in 2022 during that comeback game against the Bills, the one that called back the two Chandon Sullivan pick sixes.
Oh yeah, he was pissed that game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
So you have a track record of being a dumbass. Okay, well here's another eat shit for you. It's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm being facetious here. Obviously, it's tough. I couldn't imagine doing that job. It has to be tough. But this is the highlighting the bigger problem. The NFL has to pay and hire full-time referees. You make $100 billion a year, and fucking hire these guys and stop making excuses. There is literally no excuse good enough to be like, well, these are only part-time referees. You guys are assholes. Is what it is. Roger Goodell, all the owners, you're all assholes for not signing these guys. And I've said that this isn't the first time. This isn't me picking a tangent just to hear my own voice. I've said this on the show years ago. Number one thing, hire referees permanently. But thank you for that good nugget, Adam. Enjoy your time on the bench, sir. You earned it.
And did you also see that Roto Baller did a list of a power ranking of the head coaches for the NFL heading into the 2025 season? Kevin O'Connell was number 11. Last year's coach of the year.
Should be higher, but
number 11.
He is 0-2 in the playoffs, and it's pretty.
Apparently, he is not a top 25% coach in the NFL.
Yeah, he definitely should be higher. That's funny. I'd love to see the people that are ahead of him. That's what I would love. Obviously, I see Andy Reid and like Dan Campbell and Sean McVay, but like that's three. Where are the where? I mean, you probably put Nick Sirianni in there. He's been in 2 Super Bowls, so there's 4. Who else is in front of him?
Mike McCarthy.
There were some shocks in there.
No.
Like Pete Carroll was in there above him.
Pete Carroll didn't even coach last year.
Yeah, that's why it's going into the season, not based on last year.
Well, that's the thing.
Also, the Steelers head coach who has been on the hot seat was above Minnesota's.
That's so weird because this is always the thing about rankings of like quarterbacks. Like right now, I don't want Aaron Rodgers on the team. I've been adamant about that. He's 41 and he doesn't look like himself. 6 years ago, I would have punched Kirk Cousins and his whole family in the face to have Aaron Rodgers on the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But are we basing it on what they would bring to the table right now, or is this a workshop with a resume? Who has the best overall resume? Mike Tomlin technically has a Super Bowl and went to 2.
Because it's funny because at first I thought, well, maybe it's based on, the quarterback play too, because J.J. McCarthy's a complete unknown, and who knows what, he'll be able to get out of J.J. McCarthy. And then I was looking, and okay, so the Steelers coach is above the Vikings coach, and the Steelers have absolutely no idea what their quarterback is right now. So that can't be it.
That's weird. Yeah, I need to know the criteria before I have an opinion on it, because I'd love to know their thoughts on it. It's like, well, Pete Carroll's ahead of him. It's like, yeah, Pete Carroll's also starting with Geno Smith in Patrick Mahomes' division. I don't think that's going to go very well. I don't care how good you are. It's just like Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is an amazing coach. I don't know if I would have taken him now over Kevin O'Connell. Still a toss-up, kind of close, who knows. But you're still in the same division as Andy Reid and Mahomes. Good luck fighting for second place, dude. Like, I don't know. What's the criteria? I guess is my question. 10 years ago,
I don't know. I
remember
guess
10 years
someone's
ago.
preference. I don't know.
Remember 10 years ago when every time we would play Seattle, they would always win, no matter what.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
For like 8 years, they were just like, well, there's a guaranteed dub when we play the Vikings. Crazy how that works.
yeah,
and
and
I
they were
get
like a
giving people
divisional
credit and respect
opponent.
for what they've accomplished in the past. I get that. But if you're doing it based on potential heading into the next season, I don't think you can put that much weight on the past accomplishments.
That's where I'd bring it down slightly. I still want to take it into consideration, but I don't think the weight, if you were putting it in currency, I don't think that's as valuable. It is a what have you done for me lately league, and I don't know, especially when you take a year off. Like Mike Vrabel is a New England Patriot. I think he's going to be fine, but technically he had to chill and be hidden on the Browns coaching roster there for a little bit. Now he's back. I don't know. Pete Carroll just had like a whole year off, right? I don't think he was even with a team. So
No.
that's weird. And he's like 70 something.
That
I don't
power
know, man.
ranking blew my mind. I had to write an article about that over on the Viking Age because I didn't understand it one bit.
That is weird. Well, I'm going to put this up, and I guess we can get out of here if you guys got nothing else going on. We have an hour. Yeah, we're here hitting a full hour now. 2 weeks away from the draft. Can't believe it. It's already
Well, I
here.
did see too that the player that the Vikings traded from Dallas, that when they got rid of Andrew Booth and traded him to Dallas, that player that they got, that cornerback Nashon Wright, I think it is. I think he got released.
Well, it's fun that we swapped picks, and that did absolutely nothing for anyone.
It got Andrew Booth off the roster.
Yeah, that's true.
I already forgot about Andrew Booth. If you would not have brought him up, I never would have thought about him ever again.
Don't worry. Just like TJ Clemmings, I would have brought him up later on for you,
Yeah.
about 6 years later.
Hey, at least nobody brought up Chris Cook, right?
Oh,
Ugh.
God. What? See, even better. He had to go and outdo me, man.
But I do want to thank everyone who joined us in the chat. I'm loving having you guys here. You're always so good to keep the conversation going. You can check out my work over on the Viking Age and on social media at MNVikingZombie. We can play some video games. We can talk about football, horror shows, competition reality shows. I'm down for all of that. Just let me know.
Yep. Adam and I sometimes review horror movies on his channel right here at MN Viking Zombie. We just did one recently and looking to doing another one here this week or next. Also, as
So
he
I
just
watched
said,
that movie Y2K
yeah,
last night, and I did not realize it was another like teen horror comedy kind of thing. And I also did not realize that Fred Durst was in it.
That's amazing.
Oh, that makes me want to watch it now. You had me. I was checked out until you said Fred Durst was in it. That's funny. What are some of the? That's what we're talking about quoting movies earlier. What are some of the pitches that you get random people like that? Like what I love now that we've all seen, like every one of his movies, like Jim Carrey. We know he kind of went off the rails a little bit, and he's obviously like if there was a Hall of Fame for actors, he would be in it. He's an amazing actor, and he was like, I'm kind of done with Hollywood. I don't want to do this. But when they called to make him the henchman in Sonic, he's like, hell yeah, I'll come back. I'll do a second one.
And do you know what? He's good in those movies.
He's really good.
Excellent in those. My son loved the Sonic movies, and I'm like, okay, I know the main hunky guy that's like the good guy in that movie. I can't remember his name, but I've seen him 100 times. But I'm watching out of the corner of my eye because I'm like, you don't even realize what you're watching, and like I see 7 different characters from movies that I can quote all day long from my childhood. He's not quite there yet to watch those kind of movies yet, but I can't. When he gets to double digits, I'm like, sit down, son. This is Pet Detective. You're welcome. Kyle, I'm not even going to attempt to write vaguely correctly because I always mess it up. But you can follow Kyle West at Vaguely Square on Blue Sky. Is that the only place?
Correct.
Nice. I'm trying to dwindle down my social media, but Blue Sky, Vaguely Square, you can go bother Kyle West on there and make obnoxious requests. Tell him I sent you.
Sure. Go for it. Do it.
I'm on the old Instagram at NCDogDude if you want to give me a follow, and I think that's it. We don't know yet. I don't know if we're going to do another show in between. I'm good to wait unless there's some crazy news, but if we do, we'll probably have just one more. But guys, let's be excited. The draft is 2 weeks away, and we've been doing this now since COVID. So this will be the 5th year. Can y'all believe that? 5 years in a row, a live draft show. I am so pumped for it. I'm so pumped for it. I'm going to take that next Friday off. I'm going to request it tomorrow so I can stay up late and not be an old man that's sleepy and tired. I'm getting to that point now, but yeah. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank y'all for hanging out with us.
Yeah, you can check out our full catalog of shows on YouTube, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. We are also wherever you can find podcasts. There's usually like 4 or 5 episodes that are ready to listen to. Especially if you're on like Spotify or Google Podcasts or anything like that. I think we're on iTunes Store. I don't know what they call it on Apple. I'm no Apple boy.
Podcasts. You can definitely find us on there.
But yeah, give us a like, subscribe, leave a review, do everything you can. Let your friends know about us if you would. It's always more fun with more people. In the meantime,